So, if you weren't here last week, welcome. We are exploring this theme of yeah, can you hear? I thought I heard something. The four wise efforts, which I was sharing last week, I get really excited about. I get so excited about this teaching. I love it so much because I feel that it is really the conceptual frame that can meet us at each of the factors of the Eightfold Path, each of the parts of our practice, our life, internally, externally. It's the roadmap of what to do in any moment, no matter what is here, whether if what is here is challenging, whether if what is here is so beautiful. These four wise efforts support us in knowing and remembering, wait, how do I maximize happiness right now? How do I find happiness? How do I find ease um, in the midst of what's here? So, in the midst of, so there's two parts of these four wise efforts, and I'll probably repeat them for all of the four times that I'm here. So, I think that this teaching, especially, is one that's helpful to hear repeated over and over. What are they? I named them during the meditation, but I'll name them more clearly again right now. So you could first divide them in half. The first two are about working with what's challenging, what's the Buddha might say unwholesome. Although I think in some ways that word unwholesome can be mm, maybe not the most helpful word because nothing is bad. Nothing is bad that arises. If we, the reason I think unwholesome can sometimes be not the most helpful word is because I think most of us think unwholesome, I did something bad to make this arise. And any unwholesome or unhelpful or afflictive or challenging quality of mind or heart that arises is just arising out of the causes and conditions of our being human and meeting the causes and conditions of the moment. We did not do anything bad or wrong for craving or aversion, all of their second cousins of the hindrances, and all of their third and fourth cousins of all the challenging emotions. We didn't make it happen. It's not personal. It's arising due to the conditions of being human, of the natural tendency of the mind to push things away that are unpleasant and to want to hold on to what's pleasant. It's not our fault. Okay. So it's not our fault. And they are unwholesome because usually they lead to suffering, or they do lead to suffering. And so that's where the unwholesome is coming. So that's not personal, the unwholesome. It's just not these qualities of mind that are rooted in craving, rooted in aversion, are just not helping us, even though they're very, very, let's say, normal. They're just going to happen for all of us. So, not personal. So, the first two involve how to work with these unwholesome or unhelpful or challenging qualities or states of mind, heart, and body when they arise. And the second two help us to understand what to do with the beautiful states, inviting them in and letting them grow. So, first of the wise efforts, preventing these unhelpful mind states from arising. And this is really what we talked about last week, and we did it a little bit in our meditation today. The key to this preventing, which takes heroic amounts of mindfulness, takes so much effort, skillful effort. It just takes so much awareness, really, to be able to see every moment of pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. That's really the key to preventing. If we can see a moment of unpleasant as just unpleasant, then it's probably it doesn't have to go into aversion, anger, resentment, self-judgment. That will prevent those unwholesome states. If we can see, oh, this is just an unpleasant thought, it's just arising because it's arisen so many times before. If we think of the inner critic. Any of you got that? So often we are not aware the moment the inner critic is telling its story for the 100 millionth time that we've heard it in our lives. We miss that moment of this thought is unpleasant. We take it to be real, and we just start believing it and we start feeding it. And there we are, just in the grips of the inner critic, in the grips of self-judgment or maybe even self-hatred. So if we take that, for instance, if we become aware of that moment that that thought arises, I'm not good, or how could I have done that, or whatever it sounds like in your mind, oh, this is just unpleasant. In there, that awareness gives us a choice. We can work with it, tend to it in many different ways. And this is what the other of these efforts um, offer us, ways to work with it. If we walk into, I don't know what store it is for you that tends to trigger your craving. Pick any store for me. I'm someone who just loves beautiful things. I can just go into New Seasons for, just tea or something. And how am I in that section with all the trinkets for 5 minutes? Like, I don't need anything there. And all of you who live in Portland, you know what I'm talking about? The section of New Seasons that now has all the Valentine's things with all the hearts on it. And why I'm there for 5 minutes? Because I didn't notice that moment of a pretty flashy heart-shaped mug candle. I didn't notice that there was that moment of pleasant and that the mind just like had to touch all the things and imagine wanting them and put them in the cart and take them out of the cart, right? But when I work more with this wise effort, I start to know this about myself. So I can either go in the other door, or I can just know that the mind is going to be drawn to go there and just kind of let's walk by it like this. Or I can even just walk past it and just go pleasant, 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 pleasant when I look at it. And this helps. This really helps prevent that craving for wanting all of those things I don't need. And just actually lets me just enjoy. Oh, there's pretty things here. The tulips are here. I don't need to buy the tulips today. They can just be here. They can just be pleasant. So this takes a lot of a mindfulness to be able to track this pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and it's possible. We can see it in our meditation practice. Oh yeah, a sound, unpleasant. I don't have to tell a story about traffic and the state of the world and climate change every time I hear a car go by, right? Because the thoughts tend to take over and start telling stories about the pleasantness, the unpleasantness. We can just be there for that moment. Second wise effort, and this is where we'll just kind of linger in this one today for a little while. Letting go. The word that the Buddha uses or that's in the suttas a lot is abandoning, which I also don't love. But you get the idea. It's letting go. Actually neither of those phrases do I really love, because I don't think they really sort of point to what the work is actually of this second wise effort. So it's letting go or abandoning the unwholesome or unhelpful mind states, which will be, okay, the pleasant, the unpleasant, neutral has given rise now to aversion. And it could come in the form of irritation, annoyance, anger, rage, hatred. Or a moment of pleasant could have come, and now we're in craving and it's longing and it's wanting and it's needing. Okay. Relinquishing. Yeah. And all of these words have this action of like that, right? Which I think the word that like we can work with all of those words, and we can find, yes, Dave, letting be. That's where I was headed. Letting be. And so letting be, what does that mean? Pam asked this great question. We were talking about this. I hope it's okay if I say Pam. She asked this great question in our women's Sangha when we were talking about this week. I thought this whole practice was about or I'm going to paraphrase your question, Pam, but like like what does it mean to be with what is? Because when we get into the third and fourth wise efforts, we're talking about inviting in wholesome mind states, beautiful mind states when they're not there. So actively inviting them in when they're not there, and then letting them grow. So there really isn't such a thing as letting be, like just being with. It's not really something that the Buddhists told us to do. Just just be with what is. The Buddha told us to do this, to do it these four wise efforts. So being with, and the reason why I want to highlight this is there isn't any like sort of blank way or bare attention way, we hear that word too, of just being with. There's always, always, so far as I've seen in my experience, and this is how I interpret what the Buddha said. There's always going to be a mind state that is coloring the way we are being with something in the present moment. We will either be being with something through the lens of aversion or some quality of that, like, don't like this, I'm here with it, but really I want it to go away. Or we're being, and this is like what we're particularly wanting to look at with this second wise effort. How are we being with this? Usually if there isn't awareness and there's something unpleasant or unhelpful, we're thinking it shouldn't be here, pushing it away. That's the energy our being with is colored by this energy of aversion. Or we're being with and feeding it with the thinking if we're not aware. Or not even just feeding it with thinking, but feeding it with a perception that can be kind of underneath any layer of thinking at all. Like it's not happening, this perception of clinging or craving in the thinking mind. Like for an example, often when I am in like a funk, and I don't know any other way to describe this mind state than like funk. Yes, you could call it like a depression moment, but it's more just like a moment of a funk, not like a big, not like a, I'm calling it funk because that's what it works for me. It starts from a moment of aversion. There was something unpleasant. It could be something someone said. It could just be sometimes I wake up like that and I can't even track what it was, the moment of unpleasant. It's just like waking up on the wrong side of the bed, whatever that means, and a funk. If I if I wake up to that funk and start investigating it, if awareness arises and starts investigating what's going on, I'll often investigate this view. What is the view right now? And I'll often see there's a view that this is going to be like this always. And it's not happening as a thought. It's like just this subtle belief, it's here right now, therefore it's going to be like this, maybe all day, or maybe even longer. So there's a view of permanence going on. And that is another way we cling. That is actually the main way we cling. And then thoughts can come and be born out of that. So that is a way, just to say, that is that perception, that view, that view of permanence is a way that I'm being with something in the present moment, but I'm unaware of it. Does that make sense? So the Buddha was inviting us to be with the quality of allowing. So with this letting be, we are letting be with love, basically, with non-judgment, with this quality of metta. It's really okay that this is here. And that letting be actually also, when something is truly allowed to be there, I can remember this time when I had this really seeing this really clearly in a moment of a funk when I was like doing the dishes and there was a funk, and I think it had been there for a couple days, and here it was again. And as I was doing the dishes, I just awareness arose, funk, and I was able to see funk. And I started doing that investigation. And I saw that the mind was going back and forth between these two styles. I don't want this funk. I'm bad because it's here, sort of that push away, and the feeding it. It's going to be here forever. So I was doing both, ping-ponging moment to moment between both of them, which tends to happen when there's a challenging mind state. We just do this push and pull game. And so I just said allowing. And I don't think I stopped and put my hand on my heart, but that was the vibe. Like, of course I don't want this here. Ah, yeah, there is a perception that this is going to be here forever, right? In that moment of doing all of that, especially this like, of course you don't want this, actually brought an immediate sense of relief. And so that's the quality of letting be. So the work of the second wise effort, letting go of the unwholesome, is just seeing clearly the push and pull that's going on. And inviting in this sense of allowing, which really comes from not taking it personally. This teaching of anatta, of seeing. It's just arising, dishes, meeting tiredness, meeting the mind state of this moment, all of the causes and conditions, funk, not liking, feeding it. I didn't make any of that happen. It's just sort of happening lawfully. All of those things coming together in that moment, boom, suffering. So this is the work. This is the work of this letting go, is really seeing clearly the relationship. And when we see clearly the relationship, that push and pull, and allow both the funk and allow the push and pull, we're allowing the push and pull, but we're not feeding the push and pull anymore. And that's the letting be quality. All of that can be here because it is here. It lets go all on its own. So that's the work of letting go. And I love my one of my teachers, Alexa Santos, said in a retreat last year, wisdom is what lets go. Wisdom is what lets go. And we have to investigate things to invite in wisdom, to see what's the relationship with what's here. And when that becomes really clear, letting go happens all on its own. And usually when something is truly, truly allowed, something challenging, when it's truly, truly allowed to be here, understood, it's not personal, usually there is immediate relief. And that doesn't mean that the anxiety or the funk just magically disappears. No, all of that residue of that can still be there, and it can still, yeah, all the feeling in the body can still be there. But there's a sense of relief because I'm no longer to blame. I'm no longer bad because of it. The thinking isn't going on all cylinders to feed that hindrance and prove its case. It all starts to chill out. And then that relief is what we start building on in the third wise effort, and to start inviting in even more beautiful qualities that can support the being with and support the letting go.